We've been really enjoying the one PlayStation 5 pre-order we got our hands on here, and we've been making tons of videos. You've probably been spammed a little bit, but we've got some requests now, some stuff we want the PlayStation 5 to have, a bit of constructive criticism, some technical features, and some convenience features we really want. Now take this in no way hating on the console at all, it's just 10 features that are missing or just features that we'd love to have. Let's get started off with number 10. One of the big features that PlayStation 5 is missing is the variable refresh rate support. If you aren't aware of what it is exactly, it helps to eliminate any tearing or stuttering and helps to keep the refresh rate of the game in sync with the refresh rate of the display. For a game like Devil May Cry 5, the lack of variable refresh rate makes it difficult to achieve 120 frames per second on its high frame rate mode because they have to dedicate resources to implement sync or something similar. And VSync can be quite taxing on the system and takes up resources that could be used for something else. Now, Sony has promised that variable refresh rate will come to PlayStation 5 in a future update, but we don't have any word on when exactly they plan on releasing that patch. We don't even have a window. We also just don't know what tech they're going to be using to do it, but seeing that the PlayStation 5 uses AMD tech, it might be some iteration of AMD's FreeSync. Now, keeping with the technical stuff at number 9, this one is a bit of a doozy. Let's talk about 8K support. Yes, the PlayStation 5 does not support 8K at the time of making this video, which is pretty funny, seeing that they slapped the 8K logo right on the front of the PlayStation 5 retail packaging. Honestly, the lack of this feature doesn't bother most of us here, and I'm sure it doesn't bother many of you because most of us don't have 8K displays. It's really not that common yet. It's just weird that they're advertising it right on the front of the box, and it's not even technically updated to support that yet. Yeah, it'll definitely most likely get patched in via software updates soon, but still, is that like false advertising or something like that? If you're a lawyer, let us know down in the comments because we have no idea. But over at number 8, apparently the PlayStation 5 HDMI 2.1 port doesn't actually have the full bandwidth of a top spec HDMI 2.1 like the Xbox Series X and S, which both have the full bandwidth of 40 gigabytes per second while the PlayStation 5 only has 32 gigabytes per second. What does this mean exactly? Like for you at home, it means the PlayStation 5 can't technically output full uncompressed 4K 120 frames per second like the Xbox. This is also known as 444 output. Instead, PS5 relies on a technique called chroma subsampling, which basically compresses every frame to make it manageable with the bandwidth available. Honestly, this is going to matter for like a couple of tech-savvy dudes, and that's it, because the end result, it's not really that different. The only noticeable difference is text might look kind of weird and a little blurry if you notice anything at all. This may be important on PC when using it for regular PC stuff like work, text files, online browsing, but in a game, we don't think it's going to be a big deal unless you're dealing with very, very small text on menus or subtitles. The internet is going off about whether or not this can be a thing that gets patched, and maybe is the reason for the lack of 8K support currently. Regardless, we're getting a little too technical here, so let's get down to feature stuff with number 7. We want the switcher to be improved. Quick resume is one of the cooler new features on the Xbox. Being able to jump back and forth between games is pretty awesome. It happens pretty instantly, and even when you sleep the console and turn it off and then turn it back on, it's really nice to just start from where you left off. PlayStation 5 games do fire up very quickly when you wake up the console, but right now the PlayStation 5 only has a small option on the menu that pops up when you press the PlayStation button called Switcher. The Switcher shows the last couple of games you've played and lets you open them from there. However, you can only have one game active, and if you open another one, the game will have to load from the beginning. So really, this is just a quick access menu to recent games and not really technically a quick resume feature like on Xbox, but it'd be great if Sony implemented something similar on the PlayStation 5. Especially considering sometimes when you load up games, they now skip past the titles and logos screens. That's like a good half step, and we'd like to see it go even further. Now next over at number 6, let's talk about subscriptions. Xbox Game Pass is a pretty great value. We've talked about it before. It's kind of hard to refute that. You get a lot of bang for your buck, and the fact that Xbox published games are on it day one, it's just a decent selling point. And everyone, of course, always asks if PlayStation is gonna compete with that, or even if they technically need to. You know, yeah, sure, PlayStation Now is PlayStation's Game Pass-like service, but it's not technically the same thing. PlayStation Now doesn't have all Sony exclusives. There are no day one editions, and the library isn't as robust. Also, many of the titles, especially for older platforms, can't be installed. They're streaming only. Game Pass offers Xbox and 360 games, and you actually install them onto the console, and we just like that stuff. Now, fortunately, it seems like Sony is preparing a serious response to Xbox Game Pass, because in a recent interview with TASS, Jim Ryan said when asked if they were planning some response to Game Pass that they are, but they're not ready to announce anything yet. That'll come a little bit later. This is a bit of a change of a tune from his previous statements, where he's kind of come out and said that it's essentially a tough bet. They don't want to put their big budget exclusives on a subscription platform. But apparently now, with his newer statement, it kind of leans towards the fact that maybe they're working on something. So hopefully this means we get to see something similar or competitive, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later. Now over at number 5, let's talk backwards compatibility. We would love to see improved backwards compatibility with the PlayStation 5. This is easily one of the most requested features of the PS5 since it was announced. Now, credit where credit is due. Backwards compatibility with PS4 games to PS5 is near perfect, so there's that. People are really into backwards compatibility, though, to the point of stuff like Xbox making it more of a selling point of their consoles. I know the PlayStation 3 is technically hard to emulate, but they are Sony. They're owners of all the patents and everything. You know, if the PC community managed to do it without Sony's original tools and info, Sony can pull it off, we think. Maybe it's just a matter of they don't want to. Jim Ryan, head of PlayStation himself, said he tried a PlayStation 2 game and thought, who wants to play this? So if the head of PlayStation has no interest in it, I wouldn't say get your hopes up, man. Sony can be stubborn with certain things, but they did come around on the Fortnite cross-account thing, so who knows really? Anything can happen. But for now, we have to make do with PS Now. Now next at number 4, external drive support. This is a big one. Currently, you cannot expand the PlayStation 5 storage in any way. You're stuck with the 664 gigabytes that are available once the software is on it, and that's it, which really isn't a lot considering the size of some games. The NVMe PCIe 4.0 M2 drive expansion port is disabled out of the box until a future patch enables it, which is another feature that we were told we'd get and we were excited about, but still technically don't have enabled. And for some reason, even though you can plug external drives in, you can't use them to store PlayStation 5 games. Now, we know that you can't play them from the external drive because of the speed needed to run those games, but they've got to get this feature working sooner rather than later for storage purposes. You can store PlayStation 4 games, of course, but that's not enough going forward. That 664 gigs that you have will fill up quicker than you think if you download and play a lot of games. Down to number 3, a quick one, USB game saves. This one's a bummer, especially seeing as this is something that we could do on the PS4. The PlayStation 5 doesn't let you back up your game saves onto a USB drive yet. And with all the issues PlayStation 5 is having right now with launch and bugs and stuff, it would be a really nice feature to have. You gotta protect those precious saves. Right now, the only way you can do it is technically behind a paywall. You have to have PlayStation Plus. I don't see why this is something that they would remove like the old-fashioned way. It feels like a step backwards. Maybe it's something that has to be implemented later down the line. We really hope so. It's one of the most important things on this list, so yeah. Now down to number 2, this isn't really a PlayStation 5 feature necessarily, but full DualSense support on PC would be really nice. Now we know it's early, but we do think it's important to incentivize the use of the DualSense's haptic feedback features in third-party games. History has shown that exclusive features don't usually get used because developers and publishers are not willing to spend extra time to implement features for a small portion of the player base. Then over on PC, it's even less of a shot that we get full support for the adaptive triggers and stuff, because that's a feature Sony might want to keep exclusive to the PlayStation 5. And I know this is a long shot, but we think if the DualSense gets full PC support with all of the features, it might incentivize developers to use them in more games. So far, this looks kind of promising because we're already seeing basic support being added to Steam and a rapid increase on the number of users using a DualSense controller on Steam, so maybe? Now down to number 1, one feature that is missing, something we really want, you know we were gonna say it, customizable faceplates. When we first saw the PlayStation 5, the first thing that popped into our head was the possibilities of customization with those side plates in special editions. They pop off really easily, and it clearly very much took us back to the times where you could exchange the faceplates of like something like the Xbox 360 and have a customizable, cool looking console. Even if 9 out of 10 times, it looked really cheesy. We'd like to believe that Sony is planning something similar with the PlayStation 5, especially after they threatened to sue people who were selling and offering custom plates, so it might be a matter of time more than anything else. I mean, think about all of the different console launches for PlayStation 4, the God of War PlayStation 4, the Spider-Man PlayStation 4, those things were sweet, and they're probably going to do that again. However, if you can't wait, there are several sites selling some skins, although the application seems to be a little harder than it looks, but there are tons of great looking custom designs out there people are making. We've seen people make them on their own, some people taking them to auto body shops to get them painted. There's a lot of creativity out there, and it's kind of really awesome. Hopefully this and different color actual PlayStations and DualSense controllers happen soon. But these are just some things, features and otherwise, just stuff we want added to the PlayStation 5. Most of it's pretty realistic. Some of it's a little technical, I know, but this is all the stuff we're hoping for soon. We did not make this video to start any console war type of stuff. We just want to know, if you're using a PlayStation 5, what do you think of it so far? What would you like to see fixed? What would you like to see added? Let's talk about any of this stuff down in the comments. Now, if you enjoyed this video, clicking the like button is the best way you can help us out. And if you're new, maybe consider subscribing, hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But hey, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.